It's the Stranger Nerds here. We have Mitchell
Hi.
Lee, Tommy Grant, myself, Connor
Hey, hey, hey.
Vandermark, and we are here with Season 4, Episode 6, The Dive. This one is written by Curtis Gwynn, and then directed
Oh,
by Nimrod Jabbar.
Nimrod. Nimrod's
Nimrod.
back. Yeah. Such
Um,
a Nimrod. He directed that awful Predators movie.
did he really?
Yeah, the one with Adrian Brody.
Huh.
The one that
I didn't
just
know
came out
that.
like a couple years ago.
It came out 14 years ago. Thanks for
Oh,
making me feel old, Nimrod.
yeah. You are
Oh,
old.
Probably
yeah.
Nimrod or something. I don't know.
No, it's definitely Nimrod. Usually how it's pronounced that way.
Nimmy.
Anyway, on to the wonderful show. Anything before we start, before I
Man.
just dive right in and get going, because this one is a chunky one.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
What was your initial thought for it?
Or maybe I'm just used to when you say chunky one, I know what's coming, and I know that we're about to get like a Martin Scorsese length feature film episode
Well,
coming
that's
up.
coming up soon. So
Yeah.
in 2
Well,
episodes.
we are in the second half of this season. There are only 3 episodes left after this episode, so we're
What?
almost done.
No.
Yeah.
There's 9 in this one, not 8.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I thought
Yeah.
it was already 8.
So after this, we got 3 episodes left, and they're the big ones.
So, which I'm not surprised because where we ended off. Oof.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That was good. There's a lot of shit going on. So
Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. All right. Anything else from you guys before I just dive right in?
Let's just dive in. It is
I'm
late.
about to dive
Let's
in.
do it.
Actually, one thing I just realized, making sure this is the right order I was expecting to be in the show doc. Yep, this is. All right, I'm going to jump to the beginning scene first with poor Agent Wallace.
Man, can't ever just follow the damn show notes.
I don't always do that. I like to bounce around.
So
Hey,
tough to follow.
They're not the law.
Otherwise, I
Tommy
would
does a
follow it.
great job of putting
He does
everything
an
together,
amazing job. It
and
makes
you're
my life
just
so much
like,
easier.
you know what would be fun if we played 52 card pickup with Tommy's show notes.
I don't
And
go
just-
that crazy.
Yeah. Let's start at the end. No,
I've done that once before. I will say that.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I remember that. I whiplash from that. Yeah.
Guess what? It flowed nicely. So, poor Agent Wallace, I thought was a very small piece of this. So I thought it was just get it out of the way first. And this was the oh no, it wasn't the opening scene. It was very close to the very beginning of the episode. So we see Agent Wallace being tortured in the government facility by Sylvan's men. So asking for L's location, he says this is not known, which I partially do believe in that situation. I don't know about you guys, but it could be a situation where like he always only to inform us so much knowledge to keep leaks out, which I think that's what we're here in this situation. But
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case for him because with the torture that he endures, I feel like he would have given something up if he knew.
if he did know, good for him. No, America is in his heart. So then, and the thing I think was very interesting too, where Sullivan did bring up, it's like, oh, am I supposed to believe that there's monsters from different dimensions, or do I believe that they're trying to create a bioweapon with L? And I don't blame him for where he's going with this, but at the same time, like the hard to believe truth is the truth.
Yeah, so Sullivan knows the very vague story of what's going on. He doesn't know the full extent of what's gone down.
So he's not informed. So Sullivan thinks Elle was responsible for all the killings, and then Dr. Byrne is helping her out. And then once he saw Will Wallace did not give him the answer, and I'm glad that you put it in here because that's what I thought too. Was he got put into a hot box?
Yeah,
and
not just it was a metal box. Anything he's touching, his skin's definitely melting and infusing to that box.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
That is not a good turn of events for him. So hopefully that works out. We'll find out.
Then
thought
he's
about
still recovering from a gunshot wound. So this
Yes,
guy's
that too.
shit.
it. It's been a rough 48 hours for this man. So
He's gone through hell.
he's in hell, currently in a hot box.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. That's it for that. No, nothing really crucial on that. No small things. So
That's just the underlying threat of we know Wallace is still out there hunting.
yes.
That's kind of what the scene was setting up.
Yeah. The looming other adversary.
Yes.
Cool. Nothing else there. Let's go hop to the more fun stuff. Let's talk about Russia. Because
Yes, Russia.
Mother Russia, the motherland. So we'll start with Joyce, Murray, and Yuri. Plane crash out in the wilderness. Murray's looking around trying to find some place of settlement. And then Joyce informs like, hey, he's still sitting there in the cold, away from the fire, kind of give him a little bit of torture treatment, a little bit themselves. There's a nice little scene where Murray kind of plays Yuri's game of, oh, I'm going to haggle you.
Yep.
But, no. Fuck you. Which I thought was very
funny because Joyce wasn't even going along with it because she thought he was being serious, like gambling away half their money to Yuri, and he just pulls a little switcheroo. He's like, "No, you think I'm playing your fucking game? No."
The thing is, like, I thought it was also very funny what Joyce is getting, like, her emphasis on whatever Murray was saying. It's like, yeah, the Bears, they're coming. Like, I thought it was like so over the top. I was like, oh. It adds to the comedic part of that scene.
They were playing good cop, bad cop, but they didn't know which cop they were supposed to be playing.
Yeah. It was more so two cops and one just like the peanut gallery. That was Joyce.
Yes.
Then we get so Yuri lets him know that his warehouse is to the east and that it's reachable for where they are, and so to the agreement to let him live, they will help him out, and so we'll see. So they go to the warehouse. That's the same place that Hopper was sent to be picked up by Yuri.
Yep.
And like Yuri makes a comment like, "Oh, someone got into my peanut butter," which of course was Hopper.
Yep.
And I thought it was interesting too, where the Russians didn't really touch anything of there, because I can definitely see like some people kind of picking through some of the stuff there, not taking all of it, but the fact that it wasn't picked at all kind of says a lot to me.
I mean, especially since Yuri is he's nobody of significance, so they could have just taken his stuff and he would
exactly. And he's literally a smuggler, so like to him, like, oh no, this is illegal contraband. This is now mine. Like the fact that was all still there, especially with the weapons too, like that was something that was definitely shocking to me. And then they decided to devise a plan to break Hopper out by acting that Yuri was Murray, and Murray is going to impersonate Yuri and trying to do the quote-unquote KGB exchange with both Murray and Joyce.
Which could work because we do know that Murray knows Russian.
Yes. Fluently, too.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. And I think it's a good idea. Like, you're like, for this kind of rescue mission, you have to go balls to the wall in order to have success. So for the risks you're taking, it's a good plan.
Yeah.
The question is there information that Murray does not know that Yuri knows and that could compromise something? So that is the little details, like what do you call it? Inglourious Bastards, when they do the finger thing, where the Germans have do thumb, index, and middle, and then Americans do the index, middle, and ring. There's a certain word for that, but I can't think of it right now at the top of my head. But those little tiny things are very important when it comes to. And there's an actual word for what that kind of analysis is.
To me, that's what I call it, idiosyncrasies.
That might be it, actually.
That's what I thought it was called, too.
Maybe it's idiosyncrasy. Maybe. I'll have to Google that later. Anyway, so that's their game plan. Meanwhile, we have Hopper in the prison getting ready to faces Demogorgon, and I thought it was very interesting where they lined them up in front of the door, and then they kind of pull a fast one on us, like, "Oh, we're going to get into this room first," and like, "Oh, we're going to feast," and all the Russians joking around, and then like to me, like very much like I even read in my notes, like, "Oh, is this the Last Supper for them?" Like this is really
Yes,
interesting
it
why
is.
they're waste that food on them, and then Hopper kind of goes into it, which I thought was really nice of like kind of breaking them down. I'm like, yo, like you're a game to this thing. Like they're setting you up. And like overall, like great scene again from Hopper.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of the actor's name, but he's just hitting it out of the park in this whole season so far. Like I'm glad like now that we're deeper into this plot, I'm glad that it does exist.
Yeah.
So and then there was and then Hopper stages a fight outside with the
Dimitri.
other guard, Dimitri. Thank you.
I loved that scene as well as the scene that followed. It was put together in a way I really admired.
Because I assumed like I'm glad I assumed correctly, but I assumed that Hopper was doing it on purpose because
Yes.
he had intentions. Like he's not given up yet, and even though he's given the facade of it, like he pocketed, we know later, pocketed the vodka, snagged off the lighter.
Yep.
Like he had intent to what he was doing.
Well, it's funny because Hopper obviously does not tell Dimitri a word of this. And I think the reason he did that is because he's already been screwed over by Dimitri once or twice now with making plans. So Hopper's just like, I'm going to wing it, and if things work out, they work out. But I'm not going to tell him anything because I don't want him, ruining any plan I come up with.
Also, he doesn't really trust all the other Russians too.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't blame him. And again, he's survival of the fittest right now, and he's trying to figure out a way to take advantage of whatever he can.
Well, plus he's the only grizzled veteran there. Like he's fought the Demogorgons multiple times. He knows what he's up against. These guys have no idea what they're up against.
And the fact that he was like able to describe it, the one guy's like, what's he saying? I was like, and like this guy was like, how do you fucking know? I'm like, oh, it's so good, so good. Like, I know these bastards. I gotta fight these guys. Yeah, that was definitely fun. But yeah, that was definitely very cool. I'm looking forward to this fight and the little battle royale action.
Yeah, there's gonna be some battle royale action, that's for sure.
I'm kind of curious if they're going to use that mace on the floor. I really hope they do. The flail, whatever hell it is.
Yeah,
there's the whole episode does a good job of setting things.
Yes, up. This is definitely a table setter episode.
To the point where I had to turn to my fiance and say, "Wait a minute, was this the episode that led into that like month and a half long break?" But no, there's another one. And then there's the month and a half break and the final 2 episodes.
Which I'm kind of surprised, not to jump ahead, but how the episode ends, that would have been a really cruel way to end.
Yes.
Gap. Because I thought the same thing. I was like, wait, is this the episode they make a gap? And I was like, oh no, they have a whole nother cliffhanger for that. But
well then,
let's continue.
Well, there's always cliffhangers in every single episode. Let's be real. So let's talk about the wonderful introduction to Susie to the actual group.
Yeah. And the introduction to Susie's group.
Family.
Who is a very, very interesting group of kids.
Oh my god. Like once I saw the kids like, Mormons, procreation for the family.
But there was no, I don't even know what the organization of that family is. It was just pure chaos.
Well, it's more so the one sister trying to get some semblance of order, and then let them do their own, to their own devices. Like everybody has their, like you can tell, like there's a clique within each section of the family. Like you, of course, you have the one kid who's just running around as like an Indian, Native American, excuse me.
Cornelius, I think his name.
Cornelius, yes, the one who's all the breakers on. That kid, he's a little brat.
This fucking kid had access to the circuit breakers. Like that's insane.
Well, circuit breakers in some households are not in the basement or in inconvenient access. Like to me, like my circuit breaker is currently in a closet. Like it's like on the main floor. Like it isn't like in the basement or anything. So like that does not seem crazy to me. Where it's like, oh, I'm gonna open this panel up and just turn everything off because I'm a little shit. And then yeah, the two that were making the movie,
Yep.
the two that were cooking. There was the one who was running the whole thing, Argyle, and there was
That was Eden, like the
Eden.
garden.
Yes, the Garden Eden. Yes, which I thought was very funny. Argyle was like instantly taken up with this one girl. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, cool, like good for you, man.
Instantly obsessed.
And then they find out what Susie is in the house. And then so they find her like on the roof. I thought Eden was very good, like Eden's sick of her shit. Like I'll give her a nice little push.
Yeah. And that gives Mike the clue of like, oh wait, she's on the roof.
Yeah.
I did not expect that to be the chaos that we run into when we meet Susie again.
Very much like Cheaper by the Dozen.
I kind of thought it would be more of like a Christian family of four, just like everyone's quiet reading.
That's the thing. They're not Christian though. They're Mormon.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like
there's a billion of them.
Like Mormons, this is to my knowledge. I could, people want to
procreate.
More than happy to. But there's something that is when it comes to their doctrine, like the procreation is a very huge part of it, and like having them, help the family as they grow, and like, but even then, like, no, kids are kids, and when you have that many of them, shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like that one stupid ass kid Cornelius that kept turning off the power.
Yes, we were been doing that. Yeah, you're behind. We love that kid already. We love that kid.
Yeah.
So we find Susie. She's on the roof, currently adjusting some radio antennas. Turns out her computer's been taken away for changing Destin's grave because she is such a good little child that she felt so much guilt and had to tell Daddy.
I love that explanation she gave to like what happened. It's like my father just saw that I was riddled with guilt, and I just forced it out of him. And like, oh, you're too nice.
She's so innocent, so innocent. And then so they provide a fake cover story while in the phone number saying like, oh no, we need to, they're doing some video game code or some shit like that, or contest.
Yeah.
So Susie has all the siblings to check the father, which also Cheaper does a moment here.
Yep.
Of all of them like synchronizing their plan.
Coordinated chaos.
And awesome. I love it. So they break into the office. They find out where they get coordinates for the location, and they see it's going to Nevada. So that's the next trip on it. And looks like Susie's going with them, maybe? She walked outside with them, so we'll find out. We did see Eden in the car with Argyle getting toked.
Yeah.
So they print out a map of with the coordinates and send them on their way. So fun little segment. This is very much a fun part of the episode. Very.
I really enjoyed Susie's introduction to them, where she just turns around like, "Who the hell are you, and why are you in my room?"
Yeah.
Because they're all just leaning out the window staring at her like, how would you react if that was you? Just chilling.
Also, not just like just four random people, four boys in her room, no less.
And I think that also ran across the father's mind too when they all left the house, and he's like, "Wait, who are these people? Why are they coming out of your room?"
Or three in that case. His Argos are in the van getting ripped
with his other daughter.
Yes. What's real with her is like, yeah, I was like, oh, she's a goth kid. No, shit's gonna happen.
So this is definitely setting up the stakes, because we know Wallace is hot on the heels of 11. The California crew now know she's at least somewhere in Nevada.
Though they don't know her location. Like, they know that they have the coordinates.
Well, yes, but in terms of them, they don't know exactly where it is. They just know it's coordinates to somewhere in Nevada.
I wouldn't put that. Like, they're pretty smart kids. They do radio shit. They know.
They found her.
They do logistic. They do longitude stuff in radio work. So like that does not surprise me that they would find this.
And I will also give this episode credit in that they managed to make the time spent, because I've said this just about every episode we've talked about this season. When they cut to Argyle and Jonathan and Wet Paper Bag Boy, I'm just not interested. But them bringing in Susie and putting them in this different environment managed to make me more interested. So even though they're not a focal point of this particular episode, the time spent with them, I didn't want to pull my hair out. So good
It was
job,
enjoyable.
Nimrod.
Good job.
I'm a little surprised that Mike refrained from singing any bit of the Neverending Story when they first met. To be like, hey, we know who you are because of this.
But
They
then
didn't
at the
have
same
to
time,
identify themselves.
Yeah, yeah, that is very true. All right, so let's talk about Dr. Brenner, Elle, and wonderful Nina project. So
We get some interesting information out of this part.
yeah, this is a little bit of a this is we're getting the chunky stuff because we're actually getting more background.
Maybe I should keep this to myself.
Is it
I
spoiler-related?
very nearly just instinctually spoiled something. So
Yeah, then don't do that, sir.
I'm like, we haven't gotten to that point yet, so let me keep my damn mouth shut.
Yes.
Yeah, sir, because I haven't got there yet, and I don't want to be
All right.
spoiled.
Yeah. I think Tommy can guess what I'm thinking about, but yeah, this was I loved the kind of the scene of like don't leave the circle. And this one kid just beating the hell out of everyone. Or am I getting a little too far ahead?
We'll get to that in a second. We'll talk about when we get there.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
I want to
order, man.
Because I want to get into that as well.
Talking about 52 card pickup, you're shot in the head.
I'm picking the pieces here now. Okay, let's back on track. So we know. So Brenner equates her Elle's power loss to similar to her stroke victim, which I think is very interesting. How he analogizes that, and he believes that parts of his memories that she's repressing is what holds the key to getting her powers back. And turns out Brenner has a full documentation, which I'm not surprised, of their whole lives at Hawkins, which no shock there because scientists love their data and they want to get as much recording as possible.
But the only question I had with that was, how did he get that there? Because I'm assuming Brenner, all this stuff was held at Hawkins at one point in time. When did he up and move everything? Because the only thing I can think of is Dr. Owens is the one that confiscated it and brought it there. It's the only thing I can think of, which would explain why the two of them met up in the first place.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like,
I'm willing to buy that.
Because we know because in the first season it was just the one Demogorgon, and like, yeah, it did cause a mess in the laboratory, but it wasn't anything too crazy. It wasn't like with season 2 where it was just like, oh, they're prowling.
Yeah.
So like, I can definitely see at some point from 1 to, because remember also Brenner was never really caught either.
True.
Like he wasn't arrested or anything. So like there was definitely means of the gap from a 1 year time to kind of take the shit that is most valuable to you and get the hell out of Dodge. Especially with the people who were dedicated with him as well, which again does not shock me.
Yeah. It was just a very big video collection. That's why I was kind of like,
oh yeah, it was huge. I don't blame you for thinking about that, but like, no, there's grunts for that kind of job.
Yeah.
So Elle tells Brenner the memory of the Hawkins lab massacre. And he warns her that she must stick to one memory at a time so she does not overstrain her mind and like, trying to not bounce around or think of things that are too traumatic or trying to digest it little by little. So she goes into Nina, gets drugged up a bit, and then you can see the video clips being played above the screen of the Nina to show her pick up some repressed memories for herself. So the memory that you script onto. So we get that wonderful orderly who is for real. He's kind of creepy. He gives me that kind of like I know this is not the right analogy. You ever seen Courage the Cowardly Dog?
Yes, the creepiest fucking Cartoon Network show ever made.
Scared the
I
hell
fucking
out of
love
me
that
as a
show.
kid.
I love that show. So there's this one character who just has this like, who kind of looks the orderly way. It's blonde hair in a wide grin. It's always smiling. It's just unnerving.
Mm-hmm.
And this orderly gives me that vibe of just like everything he says and does is just unsettling.
Yes.
So
Honestly, the best analogy I have for him in this episode was Emperor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith talking to Anakin about Darth Plagueis, because that whole conversation he has about like, there was a one before you, number one, and it's like, have you ever heard of him before? It's like, it was just a funny kind of comparison I had when I was watching the scenes, and that's kind of how he gives off that creepy, like evil vibe. But he doesn't really do anything that's evil. He just gives off that kind of vibe.
Yeah, hold on. I actually found it. His name was Freaky Fred. Which
Of course,
definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna share this real quick.
Yeah, it's gonna bring back some repressed memories of my own when I see this.
How do I do that? Oh, hold on. I need to make this bigger. There we go. This thing.
Yep.
You see what I mean?
I'm glad I have to relive this.
It's just the smile, the way it looks, the hair, like.
Yep, that was my childhood nightmare right there.
Deservedly so. But yeah, it's just unsettling. So the orderly lets Elle know that there was a patient that was number one, and that she reminded him of her. And I was like, oh, the number one doesn't exist. And it's like, oh, Papa can lie. Papa lies about things, and like, no, like Papa's lying about number one, or Elle. I was like, oh, interesting. It's like, yeah, well, how number one got his powers is like it took a long time for him to tap into it, but how he did it was through anger, and like through their emotions. And it's like, oh, is there any memory that brings up for you? And then the memory of the Rainbow Room comes up with good old Elle's mother. And it's like, oh, like that woman, like, no, that was your mother. It's like, oh, Papa said my mother dies. Like, well, Papa lies. And it kind of really sets the seed of like distrust in Elle definitely with Papa. And overall, like the insecurity of herself as well. Like, oh, who the hell am I? Like, what am I doing here? And then we get to the test to line up. I think they go to the test, and so we get to the point where in the circles, and Brenner brings that number 2, which we've seen previously is one of the more stronger Esper users. I'm just going to use that term for just the powers I have. So you bring in number 2, and then they have each one of these other test members go against number 2. Now, Mitchell, what do you want to say about this?
I just enjoyed watching it because we had only ever really seen, I don't want to say horrific things, but we'd only seen like certain events happen in this setting. And so it was kind of nice to see like almost like a Hunger Games preliminary tournament type thing going on.
That is,
the beginning of the beginning of the Hunger Games where they're like, all right, do these events so we can rate you and we can kind of set the odds. It was kind of something like that, but for these kids, and I just got a kick out of it.
That is very true, because Brenner kind of used it. He gave them rewards for those who won, so it was kind of like, hey, whoever's the alpha dog of the room gets special shit,
the incentives and stuff.
Yeah.
So with the reward in the line, one thing that kind of like, I get what they're doing this directively wise, like showing, oh, number 2 is the one who is like he's the most powerful user and stuff. Like, even incentive online, like why have all the kids go against, like, they should have like a round robin tournament, or like not round robin, but like have like an actual bracket and like stuff like that. I'm like, this is just
It's
like
a very poorly set up tournament. It's
Well,
just
it's
like
also because
if you're
Brenner
the
knows.
last one in line and you win, you only have to play once.
exactly. And I thought that, and like I feel bad for number two because
11 Mickey Mouse ass champion here.
yeah, like I can imagine myself like number two getting so worn out because you see how much what toll it takes to do this kind of thing, and him doing it over and over, like what 15 times in a row, like that's a lot of strain.
I
And
think the reason that was done is because we've seen Brenner kind of favor 11. And if they did a round robin, 11 never would have faced 2 and never would have been pushed to the limit. So I think Brenner basically
not
said,
round robin, but like a tournament style,
yeah.
like have each one on the other side of the bracket, but at the same time, L is going to lose to someone who's not strong. Like that's the
I
thing.
was
Like,
expecting someone to be like, man, I got 11 getting upset in round 2. Like,
she would have got asked to round one. Like that's the thing. Like I understand narratively, but like the fact that Brenner did that, I'm like what's his deal with number two? Because he's obviously leaning on two a lot as well.
Yeah.
And two obviously does have strong powers. But and the other thing he meant that Brenner did mention too is when when you're doing this, make sure you're not tapping into your anger. And and L definitely did when he did, and then later on we find out that when L is in the room, um when Elle was in the room for her reward, trying to still figure out this damn Plinko machine, trying to get to slot number 3, she hears the screaming of the orderly and him getting electrocuted. And her trying to hide herself, like showing that, I see what happened. And then when she goes back in the room, 4 of the other test subjects are there to pretty much gang up and just beat her up using their powers. And she's like, "Oh, I'm better than you. Don't tell Papa, or we'll kill you." So, and then
kind of play telekinetic hot potato with 11 for a few minutes there.
pretty much, yeah. I was actually going to think about saying that, but I was like, eh. And then, so, and we also get a scene too when we're out to the Nina. Owens did mention to Brenner, it's like, hey, we should have told her the truth. And Brenner says, and risk everything, which I thought, Papa still lies. No shit.
yeah.
So I gotta ask the question because we know with 11's memory she hasn't received everything yet because there's still pieces we're missing. And with Owen's comment, what do you think we're missing? Like, what's that missing piece of information that Owens is so concerned about?
This might be coming in left field. I think it's a possibility this memory is fake.
Okay.
The reason why I think this is that I can definitely see Elle getting angered over her getting pushed around and stuff, but I think it's a possibility that her killing all these people could be something that Brenner implanted into her, because we've seen they have been messing with these kind of technology and stuff, and who knows what kind of psychosis that they can bring these patients underneath. So it kind of leads into more of like making Elle into more of a weapon, and her kind of thinking that she's kind of done these things and like that's how she tapped into these powers.
Okay.
It's a possibility. I could be wrong. It could just be something completely different. Who knows? Because we didn't see this. We didn't see this previously in the first 3 seasons, where like, yeah, we knew she had the power to kill people, but at the same time, there was no real indication like, oh, I'm dealing with all this. I'm doing all this, and like, yeah, it took her anger to get her powers, but we don't know if a different event was what led to that anger rather than this certain thing was a trigger for all her powers to come, because she didn't have that anger. Like her anger first was her mother, like, so I think that this kind of might be like a false memory that they're kind of driving into her, and like all these other people are alive.
Gotcha.
So it's a possibility. Who knows? Also, we get a glimpse of 8 too. So did kind of confirm that Rainbow Road kind of exists when Elle was real young.
Yeah,
Um,
and actually, the orderly even mentions 211 about 8 escaping at some point prior to this happening.
yeah. And then so when Ale gets back up after the whole hot potato thing, excuse me.
That's
Ugh.
Let's
Um,
do it.
they so she remembers, she sees herself bloodstained in the mirror and reverting back to that one memory of her killing all these kids, and then Brenner asking her, "What have you done?" Which was the same thing that she said in the very first episode. And she wakes out outside of Nina, and then realize, oh, I killed all those children.
yeah.
And most likely retribution, but like we don't know yet. So yeah, very impactful. A lot of feelings for Elle going on right now.
We're definitely getting the true 11 origin story that we've been waiting for the past couple of seasons.
Yeah. Because we're only getting snippets of it, and like this is definitely a full blown background. Anything else before we get to the last large chunk of this whole episode?
Yeah, Satanic Panic Witch Hunt.
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right. So we get Hawkins PD interviewing Jace is Jason, the captain, right?
Yeah.
Jason,
Fake ass
about-
Glen Powell.
yes. About Patrick McKinley's death, and you can see them questioning him, and he talks about and Jason is freaked the hell out. It's like, oh no, this body was levitated in the air, and like, no, Eddie has satanic powers because of the fact that he was on this boat, and like that's the only logical reason. Which, let's be real, I don't blame him for thinking that, because Eddie's the only factor or connection really tying into Chrissy's and Patrick's death, at least to him. And no, seeing that for yourself, I'm like, yeah, that's fucking crazy. Like this kid's nuts.
Well,
So
also
I don't.
that the cops are completely incompetent whenever they interview. I mean, we've seen this throughout the seasons. Whenever they interview, they get very snarky and just kind of give you that look of like, really, like that's really what happened. Like,
Yeah, like, but things like, at least with this, like, it makes sense. This is like such a outlier thing, though. I'm like,
yes,
how do you believe this? And like, then we see a nice little scene too, where in the depths of Level Lake, we see something grab something out of the water, like this little tendril poking around. And then so the Hawkins group goes to go tell Eddie what they found about in the house, and like, oh no, what they found about Vecna, and they go up to the cabin, realizing it's sworn police cars. They're like, oh shit, this isn't good. We see that the cops are currently talking to the press on the site. No, pretty much letting them know, like, hey, Eddie is the main primary suspect here. If you see him, let us know. We're gonna have an open forum at town hall. Once they finish that, I was wanted to comment of how dipshit these cops are. Is a deputy sheriff going 2 thumbs up to the press? I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man! Like, really?
well, it's just like you're that background guy on the TV where the main person speaking leaves, and you're just kind of stuck there. Like, what do I do?
But 2 thumbs up?
I think
like,
of the
over a potential serial killer. Let's go!
I think of
Very
everything.
Gone Girl vibes, where it's just like, what do I do?
No, I think of Will
Except
Ferrell
that
from
was just
Talladega Nights of like, I don't know what to do with my hands, and just keeps bringing them up.
No, but I was like, oh my god. So Eddie calls to the group with a stolen walkie-talkie, and is like, hey, where the hell are you guys? I need help. So they find out they were at Skull Rock, which is a popular hookup spot in the woods. So Steve knows where it is. So does Dustin. As the group's heading to Eddie's location, we first get Dustin and Steve bickering where the hell this place is. Dustin, using science, trying to use his compass, is messed up. That was like, once it did, I was like, oh shit. Like magnetic fields. Like I knew exactly where they're going with this. I was like, ooh, we're getting somewhere.
Yep.
Joyce and our magnets. And then, but Steve was like, hey, I know it's this way. We're going.
Steve's been there quite a few times.
Yes, he's the reason why it's popular, as he says.
Yep.
So Lucas starts making connections because he expresses guilt because he knew Patrick. He was on his team and all. So like, even though it wasn't close to him, no, he did see signs like, oh, there's something going on, and then no, they've realized, oh, victims all have some darkness in their life, and no, as we know so far, is the car crash, Chrissy, and the eating disorder. We don't know exactly what Patrick, but the black eye he received. Who knows? He was like physical violence at home, and then of course Max and her stepbrother. So he apologized to Max, like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't try harder to bring you in and keep you from hurt. Like, not just keep you from hurting, but like be there for you when you actually needed it." Actually, she was pulling away. They resolved themselves, very sweet. And then even Robin mixed in, is like, "Oh, that's a very cute thing," and it's like kind of pushing, nudging her to like link up back with Steve, knowing seeing that her and Jonathan aren't close, and Nancy admits that the distance has not helped out, and like the way the relationship is going, she wanted Jonathan to go, like a lot of strain on things, or try Jonathan to go to Hawkins to see her, a lot of strain. And as we know, Jonathan is thinking of not going to the same college as Nancy, and that's his whole internal conflict, and that's what he's going through as well. Steve eventually finds Eddie, and they all talk, link up with him. Eddie's freaked the fuck out because he saw it again twice. They realize that the time, because the fact that his watch died, the time that Vecna created his little power outage is when, as we know, Patrick also died. So they're realizing, okay, this is a conduit for him. We know that those two are now directly linked. How can we deal with him now? And then Dustin pantsing back and forth. It's like, oh shit, I figured it out while the compass wasn't working. And then talk about the EMF fields and how Gates have that, and he's definitely close to one because of the fact that the compass needle is going haywire. It's pointing to the strongest electromagnetic force,
tying all the way back to season 1 knowledge.
Yes. I thought it was a nice little like comeback around on that. That was very fun. So they give Eddie the option, like, hey, you come with us or not, or are we going? And Eddie's like, he gives a wonderful Lord of the Rings reference of like, well, Mordor is hell, but the shower is on fire. Fuck it, let's go.
Best line of the episode.
I know, Mr. Lord of the Rings geek over there. That was very good though. That was very fun. And then Steve's like, what the fuck is Mordor? Like, very good. Anything on that?
Nope.
Cool.
All right. I want to talk about wonderful Chief Pal and his.
Yes, I'm going to jump to that next. The town hall. So
I hated this scene.
I mean, I think we're kind of meant to. That's why it was set up that way.
No, it's more. I just hate this guy's acting with a burning passion. I think he sucks.
I think he fits the purpose well. Like I don't think it's a great performance at all, but like, I think he does what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And what he does is Chief Powell is trying to calm the crowd, taking questions, talking to the serial killer. So Jason walks into this room, pretty much takes control and pretty much telling the cops like, oh, they don't believe what I saw. And like, again, what Jason saw was very real. And he is being the shit stirrer and saying like, hey, no, these cops are worthless. No, I know what I saw. No, brings out like again, this is not the first time he's done this with this. He did with the sports team, like printing out like pictures and like really getting the stuff going, like to really propagandize. I don't know if it's a proper word, but like really getting information out which he thinks is correct.
Yeah.
And
he's using the town meeting as a platform to rile up the already panicked people.
yes, and again, this is the height of the satanic panic, and hysteria is in full force at this time. So,
It almost makes you wonder what it would have, if it would have been different if Hopper was there still in charge.
oh God, yes, because the fact that Hopper already put the flags up, like, oh, this is nothing to do with you, kid, and like Hopper would have put him in his place, in my opinion. Like knowing what Hopper knows, and like this shit again, are you kidding me? And the kids would have talked to him anyway too. So like, especially seeing the eyeballs removed from the very first victim, like Hopper's like, nope, this is crazy shit town.
Dr. Owens would have been on the phone that very minute.
Yep. So pretty much Jason's pinging this all on the Hellfire Club, and then we get all the families, the Wheelers, Hendersons, Sinclairs, all deeply discomforted and like, holy fuck, our kids are in danger because they're the ones who are part of this, and they know, like, I assume they know that like their kids aren't that crazy. They're just being, this is just going out of control. Except the father. The father's of course being a dickbag.
He always is.
I know.
He's being more useless. Just the only difference, he's not sitting in his chair anymore. He's out in public, so he's extra grumpy because he has to be out in public.
Yeah. So families converge at the house, and then the kids are gone, and Karen calls the police. Carrie is the Wheeler's mother. And then we cut back to the kids where they realize that, oh, we're at Lover's Lake again. And even Eddie makes a comment like, oh, these woods felt similar. And wondering how to get to the Upside Down, they take the boat. Nancy, Robin, Eddie, and then Steve leave the boat, and Dustin is so pouty because he has his discovery and he can't follow it up.
Well, I really appreciate Steve's moment in this scene where, Nancy was like, oh, it's only meant for 3, and Steve kind of like does that last second, like, fuck it, I'm hopping on anyway.
Yeah.
And leaves Dustin. Dustin's like, wait, I thought it was meant for like 3. He's like, sorry.
It's 4 now. Goodbye.
It's like, I am not being left behind again. I want to be important.
Yes, not being a babysitter. So meanwhile, the 2 sheriffs get a call, saying, "Hey, we found the Hawkins van, by Eddie's by Skull Rock," and knowing Lover's Lake's close, they all group up, trying to hunt them down, and Steve, Nancy, Eddie, and Robin are on the middle of the lake. They find out, like, oh, the gate's here. Steve being the jock of the group. Okay, like, oh, I'm the co-captain swimmer and all this stuff. Besides, I'm the one taking the plunge. And Robin sees Nancy checking him out as he takes his shirt off. It's like, that was very funny. So, like, the feelings are still there for Nancy.
Team Steve is still going strong in season 4.
Yeah, I don't blame him. So Steve makes the plunge, takes the flashlight that Eddie graciously wrapped up for him, and then sees a giant red aura coming from the ground of the mist of the wonderful lake, and it is a wonderful gate. And he taps it, you see a little tentacle slide, he swims his ass all the way back up. It's like, I found it.
Which again, rookie mistake. Don't touch the red stuff. Just say, hey, something's down there, and come back up.
Yeah. And then, wonderfully, he gets dragged back down. And those 3 freak out in the boat. And one after another, they go plunging in.
Yeah. Led by Nancy, who did not hesitate. Robin said, fuck it, let's go. And Eddie just sat behind going, no, fuck this, no.
I was like, I guess I'm going in too. So that is a new party now. So... And we see Dustin, Max, and Lucas on the shore observing it and seeing the cops are there. and almost got in their spot, their hiding spot compromised with the radio. With I think Eddie letting you know, like, hey, we found the damn thing.
Yeah.
And Max comes with the idea is like, hey, we got to pull them away from them. We got to buy them time. So Max screams out, oh, we found the killer, and then darts.
Yep.
Then Dustin gets captured by the cops. Lucas and Max, I don't think we actually see what they actually do with the cops. I think they kind of.
I think they managed to get away, from what I remember.
I remember seeing Dustin getting captured, but I don't think anything else happened of it.
Yeah.
And then where we leave off is we see Steve on the other side of the gate, where there's no water. It's just an empty lake, and all filled with all the wonderful tendrils of the wonderful Upside Down. And then we have these bat-like creatures that are harassing him, and one strangles him while two are nibbling away at his sides. And he is
I like to
helpless.
refer to them as the upside down evil monkeys from Wizard of Oz, because that's the kind of vibes they give off.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Even though they're more like Demba bats, I think. 'Cause they're more bat-like.
They're very much more bat-like. I can look up if there's anything in D&D later, but my brain's too fried.
Yeah.
But there probably is something to do. I would besides some creature that's that pairs up with the book.
Yeah. But
that's where we leave off is Steve just
getting chewed
helpless.
Yeah.
And getting choked the hell out. So save his ass, Nancy.
What the hell do you think's happening next? Because a lot of shit just happened in this episode.
So it's tough. I don't think that the what's called the Upside Down group now, which is the quote unquote adults, the big kids.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll take on Vecna yet, because they have no way to communicate with the other side. They only have so much information. I think they will save Steve, and then I think they'll do some exploring first. I think they'll do some recon first, and then come on back and regroup up with the rest of the party. That's my current hypothesis of that. Topper's gonna fuck with the Demogorgon. Excited to see that.
Yep.
And then I think at the end of the episode they will link up with Murray and Joyce. And then Elle's still going through some trauma shit. Probably within the next. I don't think next episode. I think the second to last episode we'll probably find out what Elle's. I think Elle's gonna be one of those situations like, oh, and the end of the season, kind of here she is again.
Yep.
No, like all heroes coming in the last second.
Yeah, the next episode is one of those episodes where the title kind of gives away what the episode's going to be about.
Well, don't show me that.
So. I will not.
Thank you.
But just forewarn, don't look at it.
Cool. And that's it for this episode.
3 more to go.
Ooh, and next one's not too bad for length. The last 2 are doozies, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
The last one in particular is it's a long one. Just prepare yourself. It's good though. I won't say more.
It's gonna be a night before kind of thing for me for that one. Usually I do the episodes day of, but that's one takes some prep.
Yeah, I used to watch them a couple days out. Now I like to have it as fresh as possible.
I'm just scared what I'm gonna have to go through for these fucking show notes.
Yeah, that last episode might be like 11 pages.
But hey, when it's 5 pages, we're under an hour.
I would say it's probably like 7.
But that's for another day. Let's get our ratings in for this
Grade
episode.
this thing, bitch.
Connor, take the lead, my friend.
I'll give it like an 86.
86?
Like...
Oh, you mean 8.6?
8.6, okay. That's what I meant. Yes, 8.6.
I was going to say, this man went 86 out of 10.
I was on the 100-point scale. Like, I don't know why I just went through it. But, like, I thought it was a good episode. Like, I thought it was a lot of good, fun things going on. No, not like a home run one, but I thought that like overall, there was really no real slow spots. Like, and there's always suspense somewhere, and like I think the episode flowed really nicely.
I'm gonna go with the 8.5 on this one. It was a very fun episode. They set up a lot of what's about to happen in the next episode. It's
Again, for a table setting episode, fantastic.
yeah, which we don't always get with this show, but for season 4, this was a great setup episode. So 8.5. And my Mitchell prediction, I'm gonna have to go with 8.72.
I'll take the under 8.21.
8.66.
Yes.
You were over.
So close though. So
I
close.
did.
You were a bit closer.
I tend to give the credit to the person that's closer most of the time. I don't get the whole like
As it should be.
yeah the whole you were over thing. Like Bob Barker ain't walking through those doors. So 8.66. I really like this episode. It was a strong one. Not like a season best or like a series best or anything like that, but I enjoyed myself. And I know that I'm going to enjoy what's to come.
He's not in line with us, but that's relatively a first for you to be like in line with us toe to toe.
Yeah, usually I feel like I'm a little bit lower, or like sometimes I can be a little bit higher. But yeah, we're all kind of in the same range.
Yeah, 0.2 overall, plus minus. So that's pretty good. Alrighty. Any closing thoughts, gentlemen, or any closing questions for me?
I mentally tapped.
What are you saying, Tommy?
I said I'm mentally tapped for the night. I'm done.
Alrighty. Well, that's for Stranger Things this week, or Stranger Nerds. Follow us on socials, X, Twitter, but that's the same shit. Instagram, as you can tell, it is a late night. And that's it for us. Have a good one.